おい、ネオ。あれ？どこ行っちゃったんだろう。あの見た目だし、目立つと思うんだけど。
Hello and welcome to another Streaming Parson Dig Delight Direct Drive DJ video. Today we are talking about Peaky P-Key's peppy performer, Sasago Jennifer Yuka. Yuka is known for her strong stage presence and her powerful dance moves to back up Kyoko's sensational singing and Shinobu's dominant DJing. This is due to her immense strength, cultivated from her extensive workout routines. While she has an enviable physique, she is not without strain as her overbulking leaves her flexibility something to be desired. Yuka is introduced in first mix as part of the Peaky posse following Kyoko's lead in observing the up-and-coming happy around. Since they are mostly on the sidelines, there are not many opportunities for characterization. But the anime did not waste a beat with Yuka. Throughout first mix, she is seen working on her muscle tone, especially her abdominals. In episode 9, Encounter with Light, while snapping some pics for her #abdate, she inspires Happy Around's Rinku in giving pointers on how she can improve her performance game. Even though Rinku performed with Peaky as a guest once, at that point of the story, they are still mostly strangers, yet Yuka was willing to help. On the surface, this could simply characterize her as a muscle fanatic, which one would be led to believe based on her constant muscle talk. But there is more to her than meets the eye. Briefly mentioned in first mix is that Yuka's family owns a gym and work as personal trainers. Groovy Mix expands on this by making her an assistant trainer, which is a lot to ask of a high schooler, but she graciously takes on this role as she loves working out and wants to share that enjoyment with others. Not only does the part-time job look good on the resume, but it connects her with other D4DJ characters outside of Peaky. Fun Time Dance Squad shows Yuka hanging out with Photon Maidens Ibuki and Mermaids Dahlia, whom are members of Yuka's family gym. They talk about what they do for fun outside of exercising, and when Yuka mentions having hot pot, they begin talking about improving the experience by optimizing their proteins. They get a little carried away and notice that they have gains on the brain, as expected from a gang of muscleheads. After that display, Yuka has to prove that her position of assistant gym trainer is more than just nepotism. In Fascinating Cheat Day, Ibuki finds time to hit the gym and bumps into Yuka. While catching up, she mentions that between school and work with Photon Maiden, she struggles to find time to work out. Yuka notices that Ibuki takes herself way too seriously and points out her stoicism, telling her that she needs to loosen up a bit. To help this along, she invites her out to eat, and upon ordering, Ibuki tries to go the keto route, but Yuka is having none of that, so she orders a greasy pizza with extra cheese to help the maiden break out of her stoic mold and indulge a little. After getting emotional over a pizza, Yuka points out that Ibuki's one-track mind makes her forget to take care of herself, but she is there to support the older when her self-awareness falters. This moment highlights Yuka's maturity and wisdom beyond her years. She affirms that she will always be there to back up her friend and help her, which stems from their dynamic as trainer and client. This carries over in Dear You, aiming for the goal, where upon being conscripted to help with Yoba's track and field team, Ibuki goes to Yuka for assistance, knowing she is unable to tackle this task alone. Yuka is quick to comply and show off her gym trainer qualities as she improves the team's running times and gets them to start eating better to improve muscle growth. While she clearly enjoys helping others and not skipping leg day, her real motivation for helping the track team is because she is looking out for her friend, making sure she doesn't overexert herself.
足の怪我が分かった時、チームの後輩たちもすごく動揺したと思うし、きっとセナだけじゃなくみんなが不安だったはず。だけど、ユカがみんなに声をかけて勇気づけてくれるから前向きに頑張れてる。そんな気がするんだ。それがトレーナーの仕事だからね。きっとセナも感謝してるはずだよ。私が陸上部だった頃も ユカみたいな仲間がそばにいてくれたらな。
いなかったの？
チームメイトはいたけど、同じペースで走ってくれる仲間はいなかったかもしれない。
いぶきは頑張りすぎちゃうとこあるからね。一人で突っ走って気づいたら誰もついてきてなかったとか。
なんでわかるの？
私はいぶきのパーソナルトレーナーって言ったでしょ。それくらいわかるよ。
そっか。
During a practice session, Ibuki slips out that she is happy Yuka is there to bring positivity when team morale was low. She continues, wishing the younger was around during her middle school track days as a peer who could keep pace with her. The vibranium scalpel rebuts that the maiden tends to push herself too hard, making it difficult for others to follow. When Ibuki asks how Yuka knows, she responds with the fact that she is her personal trainer, showing her sensitivity in figuring this out. While this scene is meant for Ibuki to be introspective, Yuka is portrayed as incredibly self-aware, as between her immense stamina and mentoring know-how, she can detect her friend slipping and prevent her from tripping over herself. However, I'm here to tell you that Yuka is a fraud, because she is guilty of the very things she accuses Ibuki of. One of the most begins with Peaky P-Key juggling their academic studies with preparing for an upcoming live show. When Shinobu struggles finding her muse, Yuka takes her for a hiking trip to get some fresh air and a change of scenery. Shinobu is constantly complaining of how this hike doesn't help the creative process, as it is hard to think about music composition when your legs are burning and being out of breath. Changing the subject, she comments on Yuka's ability to mentally multitask compared to her one-track mind. Throughout their excursion, all she could think about is getting back to work on her music. Yuka, in contrast, between using the hike as exercise, taking scenic photographs, and trying to help Shinobu get over her DJ's block, shows her versatility as she juggles all her different passions simultaneously. After Shinobu gets her muse, Peaky uses Yuka's family gym for a rehearsal. Yuka's father appears, showing off some new exercise gear which his daughter is eager to try. Kyoko, Esra, and Shinobu are impressed Yuka still has energy for a workout immediately after an intense practice. Despite being a DJ unit for roughly 3 years, these Peaky P-Key girls get winded pretty easily, as after their live show, they are too exhausted for their routine after party. Yuka figures that she can start working towards an upcoming photography contest. Upon pondering what she should do for it, she begins wondering why she has this excess energy compared to her teammates. She further overthinks this question by accusing herself of not giving Peaky P-Key her all when comparing herself to her peers.
打ち上げ断ったの悪かったかな。でも実際締め切りは結構やばい。それにみんなすっごい疲れてたし、あれじゃあ打ち上げどころじゃなかったかも。まあ後日ってことになったし、その時に全力で楽しめばいいよね。全力って、私今日のライブ全力だったよね。どうして私こんなに元気なんだろう。あれ？いやいや、悩んでる暇なんかないぞ、私。ライブも終わったし、今度は写真頑張らなきゃ。
This moment highlights Yuka's tendency to go full throttle once her mind is on something. The problem with this is that she will push herself too hard in the wrong direction, which is used to create conflict for a given event story. In this case, she incorrectly believes that her ability to multitask stems from her lack of commitment to the unit. She dwells on this thought to the point that the other Peaky members notice her visible distress. Yuka asks if they think she is doing enough for their live shows, and they affirm that they more or less equally contribute to the team. But Yuka still questions why she has energy to spare compared to them. The real question that needs to be asked is why none of them bring up the obvious reason why Yuka is more energetic than her teammates. When it comes to physical endurance, Yuka is basically superhuman. Earlier when Peaky were watching Yuka working out with her parents, Shinobu jokes that she must have been working out since birth. Yuka's father states that is the case, since she was born when he built the gym. Since she has been strength training for that long, she has a cornucopious energy supply compared to them and has the strength to show for it. The easiest place to compare them to each other is in the All Mix episode Camera, Live, Action, where Peaky P-Key are showing off a gym as part of a shopping district's revival campaign. There is a moment where all 4 members are doing Pilates. Kyoko balances on one leg, Esra struggles with back stretches, and Shinobu is just passed out. Then there is Yuka casually holding up her entire body weight. These people are not the same. Of course, it was never about her physical energy that is in question, but rather her episodes of mental fatigue that brings out moments of weakness. Harmony with You tells a story of Yuka worrying about a music class test. The instructor must really love John Newton because the examination song is the original version of Amazing Grace, English lyrics and all. Instead of doing the obvious thing like questioning why they aren't just singing the Japanese version of the most renowned hymn, Yuka goes full force into trying to fix her English pronunciation. She tries going at it on her own because she didn't want to inconvenience her friends with her personal problems. She believed that she needed to defend Peaky P-Key's honor shouldering this burden alone. On the one hand, her love for her friends is at the forefront as she deeply cares for their image. She sees herself as part of the team, representing one another interchangeably, which is their greatest strength. On the other hand, she feels as if she needs to carry the weight of multiple people, psychologically draining her. This becomes a problem when she starts pushing herself to bear the weight for her friends. She will forget to take care of herself. This stresses her out as she becomes avoidant of Peaky in order to practice for the exam. But when the audience sees her, she is stuck on the first line. Her unfruitful practices wear her down. Fortunately for her, as vibranium sharpens vibranium, Peaky P-Key catch onto her plight and work together to help her with her singing troubles. With a little brainstorming, they come up with a plan to have Yuka practice with a track of Kyoko singing Amazing Grace. The point of this was to have her imagine that this test was no different from their live shows and memorize this song like every other Peaky P-Key song to regain her confidence. Naturally, this works because when Peaky put their heads together, their charm and charisma give Yuka the strength to give a good performance no matter the setting. More importantly, she is reminded that when life's burdens start to weigh down on her, she has good friends that support her and can lift her up when she forgets to take care of herself. There are some weights Yuka has been carrying for so long that she's acclimated to them and doesn't even notice that they are there. Welcome, Peaky's Freedom Summer tells a story of Peaky P-Key going to America to visit Yuka's younger sister, Maika. The audience sees another side of Yuka's adult-like maturity as she is depicted as being a doting sister. This transferred to her relationships with other D4DJ characters as she enjoys being someone others can depend on. However, being in America without Diggle Translate to help with the English skills, she finds herself a fish out of water, unable to communicate with the locals. The dependability she is known for is dropped when Shinobu bumps into a passerby and Yuka is unable to help. Maika intervenes, talking down the angry Americans before the situation escalates, impressing Yuka with how much she has grown, compared to the timid kid sister she remembered. Since it is summer and being tourists to the US of A, Peaky decide to go to an American beach. Throughout the story, Yuka goes on a zealous series of praising her sister at every turn, from how smart she is to how pretty she looks in her swimsuit. When Yuka takes a break and fetches drinks for everybody, Maika discloses to Peaky how her big sister inspired her to break out of her shell, but at the same time, her zeal to care for Maika has her fail to take care of herself. Yuka is someone who will keep giving to the point of burnout, and despite being able to point it out in Ibuki, lacks the self-awareness to see it in herself. You know it's really bad when the little sister notices and decides to study abroad so that Yuka will cease the overzealous self-sacrificing. On a side note, the oldest Maika can be is 9th grade, but more likely is younger than that, putting her somewhere in the middle school range. The fact that their parents allowed her to live independently at such a young age indicates that Yuka's overbearing protectiveness started to become a detriment to the family. As much as their reunion brings the sisters joy, Micah knows Yuka's struggle to break that habit. She even entreats P-Key to support her big sister, knowing that being apart takes its toll on her well-being. Not like P-Key hasn't already been doing that, but another opportunity presents itself when Yuka returns.
ちょっとタイム。京子、タイムだなんてどうしたの？
ゆか、本気じゃないでしょ。
あははは、やっぱり京子にはバレちゃうか。
まあね、普通ならわからないと思うけど、忍とエソラも気づいてると思うよ。
ごめんね、マイカが嬉しそうにしてるとつい。
それで勝てたとして、マイカは本当に嬉しいのかな。
え？
私たちでもわかるのに、マイカが気づかないわけないよ。
でもマイカもあんなに喜んでるし。
逆じゃない？自分が喜ぶとユカが喜ぶからって。彼女は気づかないふりをしてるんじゃないのかな。
まさかそんな。
ねえ、ユカ。私はマイカのことが大好きで、いつもマイカを褒めるユカも素敵だなって思うけど、褒めるばかりじゃなくて、たまには妹の前でお姉ちゃんらしいところ見せるのも悪くないんじゃない？
お姉ちゃんらしいところか。
With her friend, Chris, entering the scene, Micah decides to challenge P-Key to a game of beach volleyball. Kyoko and Yuka accept a challenge for some 2v2. At first, P-Key starts losing, but Kyoko, being sharp as usual, figures out that Yuka is throwing the game. She calls her out and then lectures about how this coddling needs to stop as it stunts her growth. Yuka talks a big game about the gains, but mentally, she grew too comfortable with these kitty weights that she didn't notice that their sisterly dynamic changed. She has been stuck seeing Micah as a child, needing protection, but she isn't a little girl anymore. Letting go of this dynamic is tough, but Kyoko states that Yuka needs to do it because Micah needs her big sister not to be an overbearing caretaker, but the role model an older sibling is supposed to be. Yuka realizes the error of her ways and sees that she should see her little sister as the maturing teenager she is. P-Key then proceed to beat the living snot out of the middle schoolers like the bullies they are. Even though Yuka leaves the States a little wiser, there is still a hurdle she needs to get over. Returning to one of the most, Yuka's guilt of not caring about P-Key as much as her teammates do eats her up to the point that her father notices and decides to have a heart-to-heart with her. She confesses that she is feeling torn between her love for Peaky P-Key, but at the same time she feels a sense of duty to take over the family business in the future. There is something to this. Earlier in the story, the audience learns that Yuka's parents moved to Japan to start this gym, meaning they left an entire life in America to pursue a vision they weren't even sure was going to succeed. Yuka was born when they kickstarted the business, tying her life to this gym, sort of speak. In her mind, she feels a massive responsibility to take over after her parents because both her and this gym are her family's pride, and she wants to protect that. Contrasting with Micah, whom the parents let travel abroad, was born sometime after the business grew and as a result doesn't feel the same attachment Yuka does. This weight crushes Yuka as she doesn't know how she should act. There is a huge contrast the story plays at with her boundless physical strength to her mental fatigue. It's easy to point out in someone else when they need self-care but fails to do it for herself. One of the scariest things in life is to passionately work towards a dream to only then tire out and fall faint in weakness. You put your heart and soul to make it in this world, but feel like a failure when your strengths fail you and you feel you cannot go on. However, eventually others will come and someone will lift you up and walk alongside you. Your dreams and goals may differ, but you will find people who are walking the same path as you. Sure, Yuka was able to keep up with Ibuki and aiming for the goal, but who will keep up with Yuka after she has ran so far ahead of everyone else? Maybe it doesn't take someone running at your pace, but a kind soul catching up with little steps. Shinobu invites Yuka to go hiking with her, which is really out of character for the indoor cat. This becomes obvious as she fails to mystify the gym enthusiast with nature, so she goes the direct route and confronts her about prioritizing Peaky. Yuka panics thinking that Shinobu is going to scold her, but Shinobu tells her that it is okay that Peaky isn't her main priority. The Legacy DJ states that Peaky exists as a place to hone their abilities as performers, implying that the unit is a means to a greater end goal. More importantly, Shinobu explains that Peaky exists as the four of them, and it is their teamwork that binds them. Even if Yuka doesn't prioritize Peaky P-Key, Peaky P-Key prioritizes Yuka. Shinobu affirms her that she has always done solid work for the team, so there is no need to be anxious about questioning her devotion to the unit, as they truly value her.
この前は最高のパフォーマンスができたかって悩んでたけど、別にこれまでもピキピキで手を抜いたことなんてないだろ。
もちろんだよ。
じゃあいいんだよ。写真も筋トレもピキピキも全部が一番で。
いいのかな、そんなの。全部が一番でなんて、そんな欲張りなことを考えてて。そんなんじゃみんなと一緒にいられないよ。
ああ、もうグダグダうるさい。あたしらにとってユカのパフォーマンスも VJ も必要なんだ。ユカにとってピキピキが一番じゃなくても、ピキピキにとってはユカが一番なんだよ。だからいていいに決まってるだろ。
しのぶ、
ユカは焦りすぎなんだよ。もちろんもっと成長したいって気持ちは大事だけど、お前はもう頑張ってるよ。だからちょっとは肩の力を抜いてもいいんじゃねえの。
そっか、私もう頑張れてたんだ。捨てなくていいんだ。
ああ、私が保証する。
しのぶ、私このままでよかったんだ。
ユカは人より体力が有り余ってるんだから、ちょっとくらい欲張りしてもいいんだよ。私からしたら羨ましいくらいだ。
しのぶはもっと鍛えようね。
うるさいよ。
私これからも頑張るから。
当たり前だろ。これからもよろしく。
ありがとう、しのぶ。
The most humorous part of this exchange is how Shinobu states the obvious reason for Yuka's ability to juggle her side hustles while giving adequate work for Peaky. And that is because of her stamina. Which should have been obvious to a girl who's been working out her entire life. Jokes aside, Shinobu's ability to comfort Yuka has less to do with what is said and more to do with the vibes. Despite saying that Peaky isn't about them being buddy-buddy, Shinobu pulls Yuka out of her anxiety by being her friend and supporting her in this moment of mental fatigue. Yuka is determined to sprint ahead to her dreams and goals, but even she needs a friend to support her when she begins to exhibit weakness. This scene, however, reminds us that we don't have to put up a strong front all the time, as Yuka can no longer hold back tears and embraces Shinobu because, as mature as she is, she's an average kid that trips from time to time and needs a friend to help her back up. Yuka's story is an allegory of the emotional fatigues we all go through. We want to make the world a better place, giving ourselves to help those we love. However, it is easy to fall into the trap of not performing self-care in our pursuits. Balancing these two dynamics is not easy, but fortunately, you don't have to do it alone. Like Yuka, it is easy to want to keep pushing forward, but we all need support. Looking through these stories, we are reminded that we need to rely on others, and when you feel that you have run out of steam, people will come along to lift you up and bear your burdens with you. Just like Yuka has Peaky P-Key, you are not alone, and it is there that lies a greater strength than any muscle can gain.
マイカちゃん、ビーチへ連れてきてくれて本当にありがとう。あ、ちょっと待って、今最高のシャッターチャンス。最高、キラキラしてる。それもすっごくいいね。最高だよ。ほらみんなも見て、ビーチの天使みたいでしょ。マイカは可愛いし、スタイルも良くて、ほんとカメラマン冥利に尽きるわ。キラキラしてるマイカの写真たくさん撮れちゃった。そうだ、マイカ、喉乾いたよね。お姉ちゃんが飲み物買ってきて